As I said at the beginning, we are in WrestleMania weekend.
Yes, I'm so excited. Well, excited would be a stretch, but I think it's going to be an excellent show, and I have no doubt that a lot of talents, especially that ladder match, is going to be crazy. I can't wait.
Oh yeah, yep. So we're just gonna kind of take a quick run through the card for both nights and just kind of play the predictions game.
All right, sounds good.
So night one, it's going to begin with the Usos and LA Knight against the Vision and I Show Speed. Who you got?
I'm definitely gonna take Team Speed simply because of the fact that I know that LA and the Usos haven't been the best of friends recently, and as much as perseverance prevails, a solid team is better than an unfixed one.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I think the fact that Logan Paul and Austin Theory have been in the Vision together for a little while is definitely going to serve them well here. I do think Speed will take at least one sick bump because that's what he does.
Yeah, that's true.
So moving on, we've got Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu in an unsanctioned match. This one, I'm not really sure how to pick. I feel kind of like neither man can really afford a loss. Uh,
I feel like personally, because of the fact that Drew just recently lost the world championship, and I feel like honestly Jacob has very unfinished business with Cody, and he's just focusing on Drew to kind of finally hotshot his way to the world championship because eventually, obviously, Jacob Fatu is going to be a world champion. I
yeah,
have that on my mind. I'm going to simply because of that fact of Jacob finishing this business and finally having the chance of finally focusing on Cody. I'm gonna pick Jacob slightly. I'm gonna say that Jacob wins, but I would not be surprised if Drew picks up the win.
yeah. I'm going with Fatu here because, for one thing, I feel like this type of match is really in his wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I also think after the match, I've heard Drew is going to take some time off. I think he's got a movie role or something coming up. And I also think taking some time away and perhaps doing a little bit of reworking of his character might not be a bad thing because I feel to some extent like he's gone as far as he can go with the character in its current form.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like the time for Drew to reevaluate and kind of reinvigorate his fire, try to find something a little different. And because Drew's such a talented individual as a performer, whatever he does next, I'm sure will be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I also, like you, you were mentioning the unfinished business that Jacob has with Cody. I still think, the unanswered question of who jumped Jacob those several months ago, I think Cody did it, personally.
I think it's definitely either Cody or Randy to try to hotshot their way into title contention because Jacob was such a threat at the time. So I'll say definitely one of those two.
Yeah. So now we've got Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan. Who you
Ooh.
got?
This is definitely my hardest predictor out of. I would say this is the hardest one I have to predict across both nights, and that's including a ladder match, by the way. Um, because I would say honestly, this has been the best built rivalry going into WrestleMania, 1,000%. Because they're just kicking each other's asses week in and week out, and that's sometimes all you have to do to tell a really good story. Blackhair feels disrespected. Morgan feels like she deserves more. It's such a good story, and so they're doing it simply. I'm gonna say because I feel like this is going to be the. I feel like WrestleMania is going to be the leading catalyst to the destruction of the Judgment Day. I'm gonna pick Stephanie. I feel like Liv definitely has a chance to win the belt back, but I'm gonna pick Stephanie because I feel like this starts the domino effects of all of the other Judgment Days just kind of being in their right mind, being like, what's going on? Why are we still in team, etc. Especially if Dom ends up losing the fifth.
Yeah, this one I'm a little torn on. I'm leaning toward Liv, but you know, I like your idea of using this to further the dissolution of Judgment Day. That's I hadn't really thought about using it for that, but I kind of dig that.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
So now, for the women's intercontinental, we've got AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. I'm going to go ahead and say I think Becky gets the belt back and ends this feud, which, in my opinion, this feud has dragged out way too long.
Absolutely. This feud has been going on since I want to say like what mid-September when they were going in the WrestlePalooza.
Yeah.
And like personally, I do like AJ as a workhorse champion. Even like her match against Bailey a couple weeks ago was really good. But the issue I'm having is the fact that because of the uncertainty with AJ's schedule and the fact that Becky is honestly she's more visually there than AJ at the moment. And maybe that'll change, but like I think for the time being, and the fact that I feel like Raw is kind of missing, if Stephanie does retain like I think she's going to, they're kind of missing that really big heel woman in their mid card and in their like heading towards their main event. I'm gonna go ahead and say Becky wins the belt back. I agree with you.
Now we've got this four-way women's tag match for the women's tag titles. We've got Charlotte and Alexa versus Bailey and Lyra versus Nia and Lash versus the Bellas. That is, if Nikki is medically cleared. Who you got?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that because I'm leaning towards two options. Because I feel like this match would be kind of like the implosion of Charlotte, just because they've been doing their thing for a while. But I feel like Charlotte's one good crash out away from turning on Alexa, and so like I feel like that's kind of there. The Bella's uncertainty about, especially with Nikki's injury. I'm gonna go ahead and say that, shockingly speaking, I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Irresistible Forces. I'm gonna pick Last Legend and Jack Surrite, 1,000%.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I actually would like to see Bailey and Lyra win, but that's kind of what I want. But what I think is going to happen is Nia and Lash retain.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got Seth Rollins and Gunther. You know, this is a great match, but I'm still trying to fully wrap my head around the why. And you know, I mean, I understand that injuries and such happened, but I'm glad that both guys have a match. But I do feel like the context of the match is still a little shaky. But it's going to be a great match.
Yeah, it's going to definitely, like, in ring wise, this is going to be probably match of the weekend. I think so.
Yeah.
But with the fact that the story isn't necessarily there, like Gunther just kind of randomly jumped Seth, and he was like, "Oh, well, I'm helping Paul. Maybe I'm not helping Paul." Like, if they had kind of made that decision, even if like during the attack, Paul had just stood there and just smiled, something as simple as that would have set the fact that, oh, because of the injuries that happened to the Vision, and because of the fact that Gunther wants a Mania match, and especially against an opponent that he feels like he's better than, boom, cool. Perfect collusion. You have Gunther and Seth Rollins. It could have been such a simpler story to tell if they had actually told it. Instead, it's just vignettes or random backstage segments or Gunther staring at Paul weird. Like, and so like I'm going to go ahead on a limb and pick Gunther just because I feel like for the next while, especially this year, depending on how things go, I feel like Gunther can definitely become world champion again this year. If not, him moving to SmackDown and going after Cody or Randy or Jacob or whoever's champion at that time, I would definitely consider that being the idea because I feel like Gunther, heel-wise, he's the guy to me. He's so good at playing to the crowd. He listens to reactions. He's so good at getting heat on himself, and he is magnificent in the ring.
Yep.
So I would say I'm going to go ahead and say Gunther on this one.
I'll agree with you there. I mean, to me, like you were saying, this is another one that's a little tough to pick, but I was leaning with Gunther as well.
Mm-hmm.
So Cody and Randy for the WWE title. Uh,
Oh boy.
yeah.
But
I really hate this Pat McAfee nonsense.
oh, absolutely. The fact that Pat McAfee is and the fact because no hate towards him. The fact that Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll are bigger stars in a storyline about Cody and Randy and their entire rivalry and friendship and mentorship through literally a decade plus of wrestling is mind-boggling to me. And so with that being the case, I I don't know. Personally, I'm gonna go ahead and say they're gonna go with the same limb that they went last year, just without Travis Scott in the main event of WrestleMania helping John Cena. I feel like Randy's definitely gonna win the championship again. 1,000%, not a doubt in my mind.
Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. I mean, Randy winning just it makes sense. Um,
You know what my biggest fear is though when it comes to this match is that, and this is gonna sound crazy, but what if Jelly Roll helps Randy win the belt from Cody,
I
and now
know.
he just has like faction. That's such a scary thought because I'm like, oh my god, they're friends. And so he's like, Randy, come home. And he's like, maybe you don't have to come home. I can come to you. And then boom, now he's a bad guy. I'm like, what the heck's going? Why is Jelly Roll a bad
Yeah,
guy?
I know. I know. When they were doing the whole thing with the phone and who was on the other end of the phone, I actually came up with an idea that I really liked. I was hoping somehow they were going to make this happen, but obviously they've
Mhm.
gone a different direction. But the person I was thinking who would have been great to be on the other end of the phone with Randy Orton, Killer Cross.
Ooh, that would have been such a good twist and such a good way to reintroduce him to the audience. Because
Yep,
oh my god, the mind game guy is the one helping the vet, and so eventually the vet will have to repay him.
yep,
Especially like the fact that a lot of people think that Cross can be a main eventer, and
yep,
I agree with them because he's such a creative presence in the ring.
yep.
So that would have been a great idea. I like that a lot, actually.
So moving on now to night two, Oba and Brock.
Oba,
Yeah,
Oba, Oba. Let me cut right there. He's winning.
I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say not only does Oba win, I think it's going to be a squash.
You think Brock Lesnar is gonna get squashed at WrestleMania?
I do.
I like the boldness. I like that.
I do. I think they are really strapping a rocket to Obafemi. And what better way to really establish him as the dominant force on the main roster than to squash Brock Lesnar?
I agree with that. That's a great sentiment. And honestly, yeah, I like that. You know what? I'll agree with that sentiment that that Brock Lesnar's gonna get squashed by Obafemi. I like that a lot.
And here is that Intercontinental title ladder
Ooh.
match. Penta versus Dragon Lee versus Rusev versus JD McDonough versus Rey Mysterio versus Javon Evans. Man, this is.
Oh, I have honestly, it's not like a crazy prediction, but this is just my personal opinion. I think the same way that they're strapping the rocket to Obafemi, I feel like they're gonna do the same with Javon Evans, and I feel like I feel like Javon Evans is gonna win this match, or he's gonna do some insane shit like a gutter off a ladder, like because that's just the Javon thing to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, my pick would be Javon Evans. If I had to pick a second, it would probably be Dragon Lee, but maybe that's just bias. I don't know.
I mean, I want to see Javon win it. I have a sneaking suspicion that Penta's going to retain.
Okay, okay.
But, who knows? I mean, this match to me is one of the most difficult to predict.
Absolutely. The only reason why I predicted new champions just because of the fact that in a lot of WrestleMania like ladder matches in this like style, either for the especially for the IC belt, I think the history says that it's usually been a title change. The last two I really remember is Mania 31 and 32. They both changed hands. So I was like, they could definitely do it again. I know Penta really just got his run started and he's a great workhorse champion, but I also feel like if you're gonna put Javon in there, you can have him do some crazy shit, but like really capitalize on the fact that this kid, this actual kid, someone who's younger than me,
Yeah.
was just in the Elimination Chamber fighting for a main event spot at WrestleMania. So please, I think it would be such a good idea to put the rocket on him and just, hey, you know what, you really want to prove yourself? Here's your workhorse championship. Go be the workhorse for our brand. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Javon Evans.
Absolutely. Women's WWE title, Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. I'm just going to give my opinion here. Get the belt off of AEW Goldberg. I mean...
Oh, God.
Get the belt back on Rhea, and hopefully Jade goes away and they somehow figure things out with her, because it's just not working. The
evidence is telling, and I'm not the biggest fan of Jade. I think she definitely has her spots where she definitely outshines, especially her physique, insane, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the issue being is that her character kind of stays, I'm the storm and I'm gonna arrive, and I'm like, that's fine, but why is the storm arriving? If you're just arriving everywhere, are you really a storm? You're kind of seeming like you're, instead of a thunderstorm, you're more like a shower right now. That is, it kind of sends not a great message to the crowd that, oh, well, she doesn't really have, she's a directionless champion, which is the worst kind of champion to be.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
And I feel like Rhea can go over to SmackDown, get the belt, and really elevate that roster. Also because of the fact that if she decides to go against Jade again, cool. Because Jade now has a faction, and if her faction wants to go after the tag titles or do something different, or honestly, not even a bad idea, because Julia isn't on this card. You can have a program where she's elevated by Jade Cargill by going after the U.S. Championship.
Yeah.
And then eventually, boom, you can shoot Julia up to the other parts of the card.
Yeah.
So for the sake of the story, for the sake of Jade's character, for the sake of the fact that SmackDown desperately needs a workhorse champion in comparative to all the other champions they have on the brand, please give the belt to Rhea Ripley. I think 1,000% she's going to win this match.
Absolutely. U.S. titles, Sami Zayn and Trick Williams.
Oh, I feel like I listen. I know you're probably a big insider guy, because I know I am. Whatever details I can find, I'm in there. I've heard rumblings of a double turn happening Sunday for about a month and some change. Pretty much since when this match was announced. I think it's going to happen. I think it's because Trick Williams wins the U.S. Championship.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Sammy has been showing signs of turning heel for a while. So I agree. I think Trick wins the title. Sammy goes fully heel, and I'm bringing him up again simply because I'm a big mark for him, but this would be another way they could reintroduce Cross. Because Cross was Sammy was Cross's final match before he left, and ever since that match, Sammy has been struggling with the dark side of himself. I feel like Cross got his hooks into him, and Cross could basically come back, and Sammy could sort of become a disciple of Cross.
I think even a really cool segment that they could do is honestly, they can have a big angle to reintroduce him, but simply just the fact that have Sammy backstage just looking sad, just looking disappointed, feeling angry, and then you literally just have Scarlett and freaking Cross just go around him and just put their arms around him and be like, hey, because we're here, whatever darkness that you're handling, we can do together. Boom. That's how you form a faction. Something simple and effective that gets the character across. Sammy is someone struggling. Cross is that leader or mastermind or messiah type figure who's trying to quote unquote help him, when in reality he's trying to manipulate his darkness to further his plot.
Yep.
Cool. That makes an interesting character. So yes, I agree with that 1,000%.
And Cross is in Vegas this weekend.
Oh, he is.
He is.
Right.
Yep. And I find that to be an interesting little data point. Finn Balor as the Demon and Dom Mysterio. This one's going to be fun.
This is absolutely going to be a fun match, and I also like the fact that for the first time in a long time when it comes to Mania, it's not just all title matches. There are some just grudge matches, some people who just don't like each other, like Open and Brock, for example. Hey, I'm doing an open challenge. Okay, cool. The Young Gun's the one entering that open challenge. That's such a good idea, and I like it. And same thing with here. We've been waiting for the implosion of the Judgment Day for years, literally years. Like, since I want to say, like, what, 2022 when they first formed at WrestleMania with Edge and Damian Priest? They're like, okay, this is an interesting story. As soon as Finn took Edge's spot, I was just like, I like it, but like, when is it going to end? And now they're literally, besides technically speaking, I guess for the trio that they were, Finn's the only original member left, and he's gone. He got kicked out. This is a chance for Finn to be like, all right, if I'm the one who changed the Judgment Day permanently, let me be the one who ends it. So personally speaking, I think that if there's a world where Dominic Mysterio beats Finn Balor, it's not this one. Finn Balor is going to win and beat Dominic Mysterio, 1,000%.
Completely agree. I also feel like potentially this actually could be match of the night.
I completely agree with that, just because a lot of people like Dom for his heel character and his attitude. He's so good in the ring, and so is Finn Balor. He's incredible in the ring. So I could definitely see the match of the night, 1,000%.
And then we've got Punk and Roman for the world title. I'm hearing weird rumors.
This match is going to be great, but it also, to be honest, it frightens me because of the fact that Roman's a great character. I love the Tribal Chief. I love what he's been able to do, even reinvigorating his career with the OTC stuff. But Roman's not going to be present. That's the problem. He's going to have like the same issue that he had to where he was on Smack. Like once his reign became historic and he really started like kicking into second gear with the Tribal Chief character when he formed the Bloodline, with Solo and the Usos, he was on SmackDown maybe once every like 1 to 2 months. And that's just not going to work long term. If you have freaking Cody or Randy, who are also potentially going to be part-timers because they have movies going on or podcast appearances, whatever the case may be. If you have the same thing mirrored on the other show, it's putting you in a really precarious spot where it's like, damn, which champion's actually going to be present for the brand that they're the champion for? And CM Punk solves those issues because he's a mouthpiece, but he's also legendary. But he's literally on every single episode of Raw. Every single episode, Punk is there. I like the idea of either person winning, and it really just comes down to a coin toss. I'm going to pick CM Punk to retain the belt against Roman because I cannot go back to a world to where we have a part-time world champion again. I can't do it. I can't.
I agree with you. I don't like the idea of a part-timer holding the belt, but I'm hearing some rumors of them potentially doing some kind of alignment between Randy Orton and Roman Reigns, kind of an RKOTC, and Pat McAfee is going to be involved with the Punk Reigns match as well and potentially cost Punk the title.
So you're potentially telling me that we're going to have a super faction of Jelly Roll, Roman Reigns, freaking Pat McAfee, and Randy Orton. What is happening?
I don't know. I mean,
what is happening?
That's the rumor I'm hearing, and that rumor just kind of hurts my heart because I just want Pat McAfee to go away.
Pat McAfee's a great commentator.
Oh, he is. But the role they've got him in right now is just god awful.
Yeah, and not just that, but because it was an entertaining match for the time, but the fact that he's one of Gunther's opponents within WWE is a crazy thing to me. Gunther fought Pat McAfee before Dragon Lee and AJ Styles. That is crazy to me. And so, personally, Pat McAfee, listen, I love you, man. You're a great sport. Love what you do on the podcast and stuff. This isn't working, man. You got to take a step back, dude. This is crazy. In a super faction with two of the best WWE has to offer, with respectfully 2 celebrities, is I don't like that. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I'm with you.